So in today's Creative Confidence Catch Up, I'm going to be chatting with Alex. So Alex, would you like to tell us a bit about yourself?
Yes, I'm from a place called Alsager, which is close to Stoke, where
Hmm.
it's very interesting to sort of hear your tones, Amy. So yeah, from there, now live in Stockport. Started my creative journey, I suppose, playing in bands, and then went on to produce a magazine in Stoke,
Love it.
like What's On in Stoke, in the 90s. And then when that finished, I met somebody in the pub in Alsager who said, "Oh, art colleges like people, fanzine people."
Hmm.
And so I ended up going to do a art degree at Alsager.
Nice.
So,
It's all based in Alsager. It's interesting. It
well,
is interesting.
I am classing myself as Alsager trained artist now.
Yeah, because I have
So,
noticed with you, I have noticed it is a lot of like when you speak on socials about what it is that you're doing and things like that, it's all very all Sager based. And actually, I think there is something with that because I think sometimes all Sage is missed between like Manchester
yeah.
and Stoke and things like that.
Well, I live in a sort of a Stockport version of Alsager now, like
Hmm.
in the Heatons.
Yeah.
But I feel like I'm, like those um, guys in America who are very, very enthusiastic about being Irish, even
Hmm.
more than the Irish. I sort of feel a bit like that for Alsager for myself. So
Hmm.
growing up, anyone think a lot of people probably think that they're growing up in the most boring place in the world,
Hmm.
and I certainly thought of that about Alsager. But when I moved away and sort of you get old enough to see things come and go, I realised that various conversations with people really over the years, it's actually quite a special place, a combination of different types of people.
Hmm.
So when I say Alsager trained, I like to think that part of my training was at the college, which doesn't
Hmm.
exist. And I kind of like this idea of the artifacts disappeared, but the culture's still
Yeah.
there. So it's not like in Stoke-on-Trent where you've got bottle kilns or something. We've
Hmm.
got an industrial heritage, art education, but also computers with ICL. There's a lot of
Hmm.
people. So we've got a kind of a dematerialized heritage.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
kind of like that. It's a little bit tricky to sell to the local council. Um, but I think it adds to a kind of the place as a muse, if
Hmm.
you like. I also think that I learned this is I'm not really exaggerating here, but the local pub, the lodge, which was when I was growing up, was basically a student pub. It was a place where locals and students and lecturers,
Hmm.
you'd end up talking to them, and that in itself was, that was through. I only started art education when I was in my 30s, but growing up in that pub, if you like, is very creative.
Yeah.
And when I say I bumped into someone at the pub who suggested, "Oh yeah, go and do an art degree," well, it was a lecturer who actually worked in Manchester. So you got people moving from Alsager to lecture, and then as MMU slowly took over,
Mm. Mhm.
they had to go to, no longer a 5-minute walk to work to teach. As I got on the train then. But yeah, I think there's something. What fascinates me is like how a town can be creative, how a place can be creative, and how people can just bump into each other, whether that's over a pint or outside the library or civic centre in Alsager.
Mm.
How that can spur you on and give you new ideas.
Yeah, I really like what you've just said there as well. Well, when you were talking about obviously the pub and the idea of growing up, and I suppose connecting with other individuals. And we spoke like the other week, didn't we? And we were talking about this idea of like cross-discipline collaborations within the city. And when you
Yeah,
mentioned that, I suppose when I think of like creative confidence, I suppose having those little collaborations, those sort of connections within your spaces helps to bring
Yeah.
about that collaboration?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I thought I was going to be I wanted to be a photographer and work in London for a magazine, you know,
Yeah,
like The
yeah, yeah.
Face or something. But I quickly found on my course that there was basically lots of different disciplines, and we all worked together on projects. So right from the start, you know, we were you weren't really put with writers
Mm-hmm.
or photographers. You were like, oh yeah, let's do a project that explore this bit of art history,
Mm-hmm.
or we called it textual studies.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, we'll do it with a dancer. We'll do it. So it's all multiple disciplinary
I love
teams,
that.
and I think that was the. I think that as well sort of bleeds into real life, is when if you collaborate with people who are different from different disciplines, you get more diverse and original ideas,
I
and
totally
that
love that.
includes people who maybe don't think themselves as creative.
Mm-hmm.
In a way, anyone can qualify to classify themselves as creative, but not everybody can qualify to class themselves as an architect,
Mm.
because you have to have the
Yeah.
qualification. And creative means create something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Um,
exactly. I love that. I love
um,
that.
and you can, it's not necessary, it doesn't have to be looking like an artwork,
No.
or maybe you don't even have to see it,
Mm.
you know. So the people, for example, tomorrow I'm talking to somebody whose father worked at the college,
Mm-hmm.
Alsager College.
Mm-hmm.
He founded the first creative writing course,
Mm-hmm.
undergraduate. And well, the legacy of that continues, and you can't see it. It's in the culture. You've
Mm.
made you can't, and there's many people who would have been artists, class themselves as artists in Alsager, who have taught on those creative writing courses or what have you. Well, their objects aren't lying around, but their collective attention and institutional, you know, somebody somewhere has decided, yes, we're going to have a college here. We're
Mm-hmm.
going to, and then the legacy becomes that the citizens in the culture. That's where the object, if you, well, it's
Yeah,
difficult
I get what you're
to put your
saying.
finger on it when you're talking about culture. But in Alsager, I definitely detect you know, you bump into people whose fathers did grow up like that. You know, be the academics, and then the sort of art school people. At the same token, you get like people who are sports academics, or then
Mm-hmm.
you have the people who, you know, work at Rolls Royce. You know, these are people who work with their hands. They're working for an absolutely world class organisation,
Mm-hmm.
and I think an appreciation, or Twyford's
Mm-hmm.
world class. And I think now those things are gone. You just see a sort of, there's still the kind of ghosts of it haunting
Mm.
it. But how can someone like myself, who's a big Alsager fan, and kind of attention to some degree at college about cultural ecosystems and
Mm-hmm.
community collaboration, how can we link to these huge amount of talent
Mm-hmm.
and potential, which is kind of invisible?
Yeah. And
But
also when someone like yourself is, you know, when you're on about like magazines and things like that, by speaking about or writing about what's going on, it becomes more, becomes an awareness around those things.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I've been thinking about this because I've been thinking about doing a magazine again, because this was 30 years ago since
I love that.
and you know, I've got it in my hand,
Mm-hmm.
and I think you may have experienced this with embroidery, or when you're working together with some people and you produce an artifact, a bit like the smoke that's left over,
Mm.
or well, not the smoke, the grime on the on the buildings.
Mm-hmm.
It's not so much produce the magazine itself, but the act of people going around the city trying to hit a deadline together, trying to delay deadlines together in some cases. It drives a deep connection of people. I think what's become really apparent to me is the role of shops. How, to what degree the role of shops and hairdressers and clubs, that person-to-person contact, how important that was at that time. And 1994 in Hanley and Stoke-on-Trent was very exciting, believe it or not. And it's very heartbreaking, very heartbreaking to go back. For me, before Christmas, I came to go to a networking event organised by a great organisation called Stoke Creates, really trying to bring creatives together. But during the day, I went down to Hanley, and it was very, very depressing, and included a memorial of somebody who killed themselves, Jackson, and I remember him photographing him as a young man, and I think it's devastating. Really, one of the things that upsets me the most is the people who haven't made it. 30 years, things look so promising. They did look promising in 1994. We had Oasis on the 11th of April. I was there photographing Oasis, and you felt like, well, yeah, I can't miss out on a gig because they're going to go 2-3 months after Oasis played at the Wheatsheaf. They were on telly, they were massive. And you felt like popular culture was moving that fast, and you could see somebody, and it could be you or your mates. It felt like that. And it felt like there was, it feels a bit like now, I think. You feel like there's a change coming. I guess at the time you don't quite understand it. And now it seems like we're at a very, very, it's barely moving. It feels like things are very slow. Albeit with phones, which makes it, we didn't have phones back then. We've got a very fast stream, which is, I'm addicted to TikTok, and I love it. But in the real life bit, I think there's the pandemic perhaps has reduced the face-to-face stuff. I think that there's some shops coming back, and there's one in Stockport run by John Whitehurst, who I met. He's from Stoke, so he's running a clothes shop. There is an art to it, and I think shops and there's sort of a creative scene, if you like. There was a creative scene. I was part of it. I'm sure there's people in their 20s who are part of creative scenes all over the place. But I suppose I look at that and I think I do miss, and I'm starting to value more shops, music shops you go into, bookshops, and there's those in Hanley still. There's some in Stockport coming. It's taken a long time, but I do feel like there's a return to the human. I would say if there's a sort of sense of a new era. We're in the Charles era. We're in the post-Liz Truss era. There is an election coming. I think the magazine person in me is trying to say, what is the feeling of now? What is the zeitgeist?
I like that. And the thing is, like, obviously the community around you and the people around you are the things, I suppose, that are impacting your creative work. So can you tell us a bit about some projects that you've got going on at the moment with the communities that you are currently working with?
Yeah, well, I've teamed up with another person called Alex. He runs a cafe called Home in Alsager.
Okay.
So he's at one end of the village, as we call it, and I've got a property at the other end of the village, which is home to a craft shop. You've been there, Two Door Studio. So they're
Yeah,
my
yeah.
tenants.
It's a great
So
little
I've
space.
teamed up with, and above there, I've got a gallery and a little meeting room.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, me and Alex have teamed up in this idea of a creative high street.
Mm-hmm.
Alex is also an architect by training,
Mm-hmm.
and he and I had a few ideas. Anyway, he engaged with Manchester School of Architecture,
Yes.
and we've had 6 of them came down for a visit in February, I think. And then this last couple of weeks, we've had a team of about 12, 5, 6 master students, then supervising undergraduates, second years. So they've, over the last 2 weeks, they've been working on a master plan for Alsager,
Oh,
mainly
wow.
focused on the skate park.
Mm-hmm.
So Alsager's got a lovely park, but it's got a kind of skate park, which is a little bit being neglected. Well, more than the. So they came down and last Monday, we set up outside the civic centre, and we've got lots of people from the University of the Third Age, which are basically retired folk,
Oh,
plus the students from the primary school.
mm-hmm.
So we got a really nice mix. They came back on Thursday with the finished plans. We got a beautiful model with got a 3D printed skate park.
Oh, real.
You can plug in,
Mm-hmm.
and a car park. You can basically got modules which we can 3D print. That's been really interesting. I suppose part of it is they are trained. Architects now are trained. We need to engage the communities. So that's been really the first project of sort of note, really. When you have that many, we've got 20, probably about 20 people have been working together on this.
Real. No,
And that,
it's great.
um,
It's great to hear about, and like that idea that when you were like previously thinking about Alsager, and you, like you said, like you base there and all this, it's like it's
yeah,
kind of manifested in a way where you were trying to contribute it to make it better, and I love that.
yeah.
Mm.
Well, there's some boring stuff. I'm sign up for my Connected Communities
Mm-hmm.
newsletter. So the council does have this thing called Connected Communities.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed the bit on youth just dwindling over a
Yeah.
period of months. And then I thought, do you know what? Alsager is worse now for being a youth than it ever was when
Mm-hmm.
I was there. And Alsager's a town of 2 halves. One half of it has got, it's in the top 20% indices of multiple deprivation. So it's akin to somewhere like Toxteth. It's like an inner city area, although no one would ever think it. So
Yeah. Wow.
so the sort of very boring bit of it is before this, I was kind of looking what can I do? What can other people do? Young people don't really have a voice. They can't go to meetings during the day with the council, young
Mm.
people. And then young mums and people, they can't go to meetings during the day. It just comes from the feeling that you want your hometown to do well. I'm sure there's loads of Stokies
Yeah, feeling the same.
watching this saying, oh, I don't want to live there, but I wish Stoke would do really
Yeah,
well.
and it's
I want
about
it to,
the sort of councils and things that listening to the people that live there,
yeah, I
rather
think
than,
it's
oh, we think
about,
this, but
it's also a very hard job for anyone who
yeah,
these people are humans who do these jobs. They get
definitely.
enormous amount of pressure.
Mm.
And I think I suppose, this is a bit of a turnaround where Alsager was really damaged by the Brexit vote, the
Mm.
online bullying, that basically there's a collapse really of online community in
Mm-hmm.
after and
Yeah.
during Brexit. Really brought the worst of people out of people, really intolerant, bullying in real life, small towns as well as big. I think anybody will tell you that has tried to involve themselves in public or community art or community life, there will be 1 or 2 people in every place, and they will come after you with spite you'll not believe
Mm.
until you've encountered it.
And it's
And
interesting, isn't it, how just by something like that happening, it splits like
yeah,
what would be a whole into pieces,
yeah,
and then it's then we wonder when everybody starts to wonder why things don't start to people
yeah,
pulling together. It's because of these divides that obviously
yeah.
is
Well, the
what's
obvious one
making
is
this
kind of
happen.
we are in this culture. We're in a cultural. I hope we can refer it to the late culture wars.
Yeah. Hmm.
But honestly, the punching down, I think they call it, don't they?
Mm.
On single mums, trans, anyone different,
Hmm.
they are experiencing on a day-to-day basis. A sector of the population has been briefed against them, and it does matter. That's how you remove creativity
Mm.
from a community. You pick on them.
Mm.
You pick on people. That's how
Mm.
you stamp out creativity and stamp
Yeah.
out dissenting voices. Two are a bit the same.
Yeah. And it's true, like when you were on about like what you're on about now, it's like everybody's individual in their own right. And at the end of the day, if each person gets stamped out for whatever reason,
Yeah,
then it's going to be a very boring place. Like if everybody's the
yeah.
same, isn't it?
And I think I would say stamping out part of it is just systematic.
Yeah.
If you're as a sort of stay-at-home dad, you can't really be creative when you've not got the time or the energy to be creative.
Yeah. The
So lots of
accessibility and
people
things
are
as well.
removed from
Yeah.
the world of having their own time. When before I was a before I did the magazine. I was working as a chef. You try and be creative if you're a chef. You're working split shifts. You're just
Yeah.
exhausted.
And it's the
So it's not.
mentality, isn't it? If you're in an environment where fair enough, like chefing, it is creative,
Yeah,
but if it's not in the sense that you are creative or want to be, then
yeah,
it adds pressure to what you want to do. And then it's like, yeah, you just get like burnt out, don't you?
yeah. I think for me, it's basically is a big thing, isn't it? It's basically poor people can't be as creative as wealthy people because they don't. They have to. They've got lots more to worry about.
Mm.
And this is in the data and in the creative sector that in the world of vernacular creative careers for the poshos. You never get there. You've not got enough capital or free
Yeah.
time or free mental space to think.
Yeah.
So in a way, I suppose this is why something like in the 90s bands, someone like Oasis comes through, that they did look like a bunch of Manx, and they were. you know
Mm.
Other bands, the in 94 Elastica played, uh, and then they're slightly different. Well, these people are they're kind of a art school, very privileged art school
Mm.
London types.
Mm-hmm.
Damon Albarn's girlfriend, Sway, they're architect school. Juliana Frischman, I think she was at architecture school with Brett
Wow.
Anderson. Damon Albarn's dad, artist. So there's this I kind of inherited, not it's a cultural privilege that if you've had that background and that way of being talked to, like in art school, very supportive. It
Yeah.
doesn't who's
Yeah.
done and wrong.
Mm-hmm.
If you have that at home, and you also have some evidence, your circle of friends, your circle of your mum and dad's friends, that's a lot different than one growing up in Burnage, Oasis, or growing up in Kids Grove, Burslem, somewhere like that,
And
or in Alsager. You don't really know what's out there.
mm,
You know what's in your little place.
mm,
You know what you got to do, and you know what you can do.
yeah.
Some things are
Yeah. Control.
outside of your pay bracket.
Mm,
You can't
yeah.
afford a MacBook Pro. You can't
Mm.
afford an iPhone.
And I do like
Um,
that when you're talking about people and the way different people live. And it is fun. It is not funny, but it is that it does make sense that the fact that people who have got like these really hard hitting jobs and things like that, and then it's the stress and stuff that comes out that which going to stifle creativity. And then if they
yeah,
don't have that supportive network, then they're
yeah,
never going to be able to make it. Whereas
yeah,
those other people who are a bit more privileged within their communities,
yeah.
yeah, so it totally makes
I
sense.
mean, I think this is a thing in Stoke. Um, the potter, the studio potter,
Hmm.
you've got to be quite wealthy to start doing that
Mm.
in terms of
Yeah.
time and equipment. You need a little you can't do it you can't do it on the
Oh
kitchen
no,
table.
no, it's true.
You can't start drying off stuff. I mean,
No.
my old building was my building was originally used as a pottery place, but it's when you start doing these sort of creative hobbies, which are a bit like other people's jobs, if you
Yeah.
like,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of middle class.
Mm.
Dare I say that?
Mm. Well, it's I was going to say it's people's thoughts, and but I do understand that sort of divide between certain communities of people, and it's totally.
Yeah,
But before we end on this
yeah,
episode, because it's been absolutely great speaking with you today, do you
yeah.
have any words of wisdom or words of encouragement that you'd like to leave with us today?
Um,
It could be
I would
anything.
say that on a personal level, it's about as a creative person, always be a battle. That can I do what I want to do?
Mm-hmm.
I imagine I would like to do this, but then you realize you can't do it, even if you try really, really hard.
Sometimes it
Or
has
so,
to
yeah,
pivot.
I suppose that is the answer there. Go round and you'll find something. And I think the other thing is like finding other people.
Yeah, definitely.
It's really nice to, I think the best thing that I've learned, I suppose, is that the value of a good, honest collaborator who will tell you as it is. That's a rubbish idea.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? Never gonna learn
um,
else.
and I think you
Mm.
yourself as a creative, sometimes the individual has got a blind spot. It
Yeah.
is the quality of their own ideas.
Yeah.
So I have my ideas just turn on in the morning, and then sort of some of them are rubbish, some of them are good.
Hmm.
If you have someone, I think if you see them face to face and you present your picture or your
Yeah.
diagram, in my case,
Mhm.
it's I think creativity is a tribal, it's a peoply face to face thing, and it's material and it's pens and holding things. I think that's why this lift out skate park is so nice.
Mm.
And the other little model is made out of bits of wood. It's
Love
basically bits of
it.
wood shaped, and then you playing.
Yeah.
Creativity, it can be play and fun. Time flies. You get all the mental health benefits come for free,
Hmm.
and I think this is it. If it's play,
Yes.
I think art education in a way can, and and doing something like, if you're a keen cook, don't go and work in the kitchen. If you almost professionalize the play, in a
Mhm.
way you've lost something. So sometimes, well, I guess you've got to get over that. I think I have just this spring, really, that a sense of play, and other people like playing, and when it's play, there's less likely people are less likely to take it personally.
I like that. I like that. But yeah.
So
I,
you can criticize someone's idea within the scheme of play. Whereas I'm sure, I don't know if you witnessed a tutor giving some feedback to a student, and they
hmm.
just put the heart and soul into it. It's devastating.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I think civilians, if you like,
Yeah.
they don't really need. They might be on a creative journey, but they don't need the full blown tutor questioning your heartfelt treasure,
I love that.
unless it is very it can be very stressful. And I don't know if you saw it, but certainly in Alsager, sort of egos just removed from very confident people overnight.
It's been so great like speaking with you here today. But yeah, got a few minutes left to go. But thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Amy. And thank you for what you're doing. It's great to hear a Stokey voice speak so authoritatively.
Oh,
Female Stokey voice. Creativity.
Thank you.